I don't ease into it. I start with the 10th slap. That's the one that stayed. I was standing by the dining table, just off the corner, like I always did in that house. I was holding a napkin, white, still folded. I remember thinking it was stupid to keep holding it, but my fingers wouldn't let go. My son's face was red, not drunk. I checked for that. I always did. This was worse. He was focused, jaw tight, sweat at his hairline, like he was finishing a task. His mother-in-law sat at the table, straight-backed, hands folded. She smelled like powder and old coffee. She didn't move, not once. She watched the way people watch weather through a window. I didn't scream. That part bothers people. When I tell it, they want bravery or fear. It was neither. I was empty, like something had shut off without asking me first. I remember thinking very clearly, oh, this is who he is now, not who he's becoming, who he already is. After the last one, there was a pause, just long enough for me to hear my own breathing and the hum of the light above us. He said something. I don't remember what. It didn't matter. I reached for my purse. My hands worked fine. That surprised me. I walked past him, past her, and toward the door. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. I said I'll see myself out. I don't know why I said that. It sounded polite, almost funny. It still surprises me that those were the words. Outside, the air hit my face, and that's when it started to burn. My name is Lillian Prescott, 68 years old. I didn't know it then, but that walk to my car was the last time I left anything unfinished. I rewind, fast, because my brain won't let the night sit alone. I raised him by myself. That's not a medal, it's just a fact. I said yes too much, covered when I shouldn't have. When teachers called, I smoothed it over. When neighbors complained, I laughed it off. He's just tired, I'd say. He's figuring himself out. He had a temper early, not fists, mouth first, sharp, cutting. I told myself boys talk like that. Phases pass. I kept saying that word phase, like it was a promise. I remember his first apartment. I helped him clean before the lease inspection. Bleach on my hands, strong enough to sting my nose. He stood in the doorway scrolling his phone while I scrubbed the sink. "Mom, relax," he said. "You always make things bigger than they are." I said I'm just helping. I always said that. When he snapped at girlfriends, I defended him. He's under pressure. When he raised his voice at me, I lowered mine. I thought love meant staying quiet, so things wouldn't get worse. I thought peace was something you preserved by swallowing it. There were moments I saw it, the look in his eyes when he felt challenged, the way his jaw set. I ignored those. I was good at ignoring. I called it patience. After the night at the house, his voice kept replaying in my head. Not the words, the certainty, like he was owed something, like I was in the way. I said it out loud in my kitchen, standing there, with my keys still in my hand. I taught him this. My voice cracked, untaught. I hate myself for that part. I hate that I know it's true. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about every time I'd stepped aside to make room for him, every time I'd said later instead of no. By morning, the guilt was heavy, but it wasn't louder than something else that had finally started to speak. You ever defend someone so long, you forget to protect yourself. The house, Gordon Street. Everyone called it his. Neighbors, friends, even me sometimes when it was easier than correcting people. Daniel's place, I'd say like the words couldn't hurt if I said them softly. But the papers were never clean. Not once. Always temporary. Always later. He'd push a folder across the table and say, "Just until the refinance," or, "It's a formality, Mom." I'd ask a question. He'd sigh. I'd sign anyway. My name stayed on things just in case. That's how he put it, like it was for my benefit, like he was protecting me. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe he still needed me for the right reasons. He needed loans. Plural. The first time he promised it was the last. The second time he said rates were better. The third time he didn't explain at all. He just slid the paper over and tapped the line with his finger. "Right there," I signed. Stupid, I know. I remember the sound of the pen. Dry scratch, cheap ink. My hand shook a little, but I pressed harder, like that would steady things. He watched me sign, like he was watching a lock click shut. When I looked up, he smiled. Relief, not gratitude. "You're a lifesaver," he said once. Another time it was, "You know I'd do the same for you." He never did. Not really. When friends asked why my name was still on the deed, I joked. Old habits. When he joked about it, I laughed along. It felt easier than saying I was scared of what would happen if I didn't. After the slaps, that laugh turned sour in my mouth. I kept hearing his voice from years ago. "It's basically mine. Basically. That word does a lot of damage when you let it. Tell me, would you ever co-sign for family again after this?" That night wasn't random. I see that now. Daniel called earlier and said, "Come by for dinner." No reason. Just dinner. His voice had that careful tone, the one he used when he wanted something, but didn't want to say it yet. I should have caught it. I didn't. From the start, the questions came dressed up as small talk. His mother-in-law, Judith, leaned back in her chair and smiled like she was hosting a meeting, not a meal. "Just curious," she said, swirling her glass. "How long has your name still been on the house paperwork?" I said, "I don't know. It's old stuff." Daniel didn't look at me. He stared at his plate. Judith nodded slow. "Of course. These things get messy if they're not handled properly." She said properly like it meant something dangerous, especially at our age. Our age? She meant mine. Daniel finally spoke. "Mom, we've talked about this." His voice was low, tight. "It just needs to be settled," I asked. Settled how I already knew the answer. I just wanted to hear him say it. He pushed his chair back a little. "You signing things the right way. Clean. Simple. Simple." That word again. Judith smiled wider. "It's really for everyone's protection," she said. "No one wants confusion later. Later. Always later." The air felt tight, like burnt toast you can't find. I said, "Your father wanted it this way." "That did it." Daniel's head snapped up. "You always bring him into it," he said, louder now. "This isn't about him." Judith didn't move. She watched, calm, expectant. I opened my mouth to say something else. Anything. That's when his hand came up, fast. The first slap landed before I finished the breath I'd taken to speak. Everything after that blurred. But I remember Judith's voice cutting through it all. Soft, clear. "We need this settled." Then I understood. I wasn't there for dinner. I was there to be handled. You ever realize too late you weren't a guest? You were the target. Back in my apartment, I shut the door with my foot and stood there longer than I should have. The lock clicked. Loud. Final. I pressed an ice pack to my face. Too cold at first, then not cold enough. The swelling had already turned dark, like something spreading on its own schedule. I leaned over the sink and stared at the mirror. The woman looking back didn't flinch. That scared me more than the bruise. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "We need to talk. No apology. Just need." I didn't answer. I set the phone face down like it might crawl. I thought about calling someone. A friend. A cousin. Anyone. I even picked up the phone once. Put it back down. It wasn't pride. I wish it were. Pride at least sounds strong. This was just tired. Bone deep. The kind that makes words feel heavy and useless. I ran water. The ice pack dripped onto the counter. I wiped it up with a paper towel and laughed quiet and ugly. Still cleaning. Still fixing. I said it out loud just to hear it land. I'm done explaining. The words felt strange, like trying on shoes that didn't quite fit yet, but I kept them on. I didn't cry. Not that night. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the refrigerator hum. I replayed the moment before his hand came up. The split second where he chose himself. That choice finally reached me. By morning, the bruise would be worse. I knew that. What surprised me was this calm, steady thing underneath the pain, like something had locked into place. Is it worse to be hurt, or to finally stop hoping the box sat where it always had? Under the bed. Metal. One corner rusted through like it had been chewing itself for years. I hadn't opened it since I moved in. Maybe longer. I dragged it out with my foot and sat on the floor, like I used to when Daniel was little and needed help with homework. he pretended not to care about. Inside were papers, old ones, boring ones, the kind nobody wants until they suddenly do. Deeds, letters, carbon copies that smelled faintly of dust, and something sweet I couldn't place. I flipped through them slow. My hands shook, but not from fear. From recognition. Like my body knew before my head caught up. My name was there. Clear. Not crossed out, not amended. Just sitting where it had always been patient, as a bruise waiting to bloom. I stared at it longer than necessary. I told myself I was misreading it. I wasn't. I called Harold Finch. We hadn't spoken in years. He answered on the second ring like he'd been waiting. "Lillian," he said. "This is a surprise. I need you to look at something I said." My voice sounded steady. That surprised me. I read him the line. The dates, the clause Daniel always brushed past. There was a pause on the other end, papers shuffling, a breath. Lillian Harold said slower now. This was never transferred, not legally. I sat back against the bed frame. The wood creaked. Silence stretched between us, thick and loud. Relief came first, sharp and almost painful. Then guilt followed right on its heels, because relief felt wrong, because this involved my son. "You're sure?" I asked. "I don't guess with things like this," he said. Your name never left. I thanked him. Hung up. Stayed on the floor longer than I should have. The box still open. The truth sitting there, like it had been waiting for me to stop pretending. Would you open that box or leave it closed forever? Harold came by the next afternoon. No suit, just a folder, and that look he gets when he already knows the answer, but still lets you talk yourself into it. He laid things out slow, careful, like you do when someone's already bruised. "Property taxes haven't been paid in over a year," he said. "Insurance lapsed twice. That clause you signed." "It wasn't decorative," I said. "But he's my son." I said it like it should end the conversation. Harold didn't flinch. "And this is your name," he said, tapping the page. "Not hard, just enough. Your responsibility, your risk." He explained what I could do. Issue notice, reclaim control, sell if I chose. He kept using words like legally and properly and within your rights. They sounded clean, too clean for how messy I felt. I kept picturing Daniel at 8 years old, missing his front tooth, asking if I'd always be there. I almost laughed at that memory, almost cried. What if I warned him I asked? Give him a chance. Harold looked at me for a long second. Chance to do what he said, fix it, or stop you. That landed hard. I thought about the look on Daniel's face the night he hit me. Not anger, decision. He'd already decided I wouldn't stop him. Warning him now would just give him time. Time to push back, time to twist things, time to hurt me again, just cleaner this time. I don't want revenge, I said. My throat tightened. I just want quiet. Harold nodded. Then don't announce it, he said. Handle it. End it. After he left, I sat alone with the folder open on the table. Choosing not to warn him felt heavier than any slap. It felt like cutting a cord I'd been holding my whole life. Is warning someone mercy, or just another way to let them hurt you? The title office was too cold. The kind of cold that makes your shoulders creep up without asking. It smelled like toner and old coffee, the burnt kind that sits on a warmer too long. A man named Eric shook my hand and said, "We'll keep this simple." He said it like a promise. "Cash buyers," Harold added. "They're ready." Eric nodded. "Quick close, ma'am." No drama. I like that. No drama. I hadn't had enough of it to last a lifetime already. They slid the papers across the table. Eric pointed without looking at me. Initial here. I did. Here too. Again. And here. My initials started to look like they belonged to someone else. Each time the pen touched paper it felt heavier. Not harder. Steadier. Like my hand finally knew what it was doing. Eric cleared his throat. Just confirming, he said, "Careful now. You understand? This transfers full ownership." "I do," I said. My voice didn't wobble. That surprised me. Harold watched from the corner of the room. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He'd already said everything that mattered. "Final signature," Eric said. He slid the last page closer. After this, it's done. I thought about Daniel at work, probably pacing, probably irritated at something small. I wondered if he felt that same certainty he'd had the night he raised his hand. The thought passed. I didn't chase it. I signed. No smile. No tears. Just ink moving where it needed to go. Eric gathered the pages and said, "We'll record this today. Funds will clear within 2 business days." "Thank you," I said. The words felt automatic, polite muscle memory. As we stood to leave, Harold said quietly, "You okay? I will be," I said. "Not now. Not yet. But soon." Outside, the sun hit my face, and I squinted. I stood there for a second longer than necessary breathing. I realized something then. This wasn't revenge. It didn't feel sharp or loud. It felt solid, like closing a door that had been slamming in the wind for years. This is what boundaries sound like. Would you have done it this quietly or blown everything up? He called first. Didn't even say hello. "What did you do?" He shouted. Not my name, not Mom. Just that. Like I was a problem to be fixed. I didn't do anything I said. That was true, in the way truth sometimes is. I hadn't touched him. I hadn't gone back. I'd just signed my name where it already belonged. "You think this is funny?" he said. His voice cracked on funny. Confused, angry. He kept talking fast, tripping over himself. "The lock won't open. Someone's inside. There are trucks." I heard it then. Sirens in the background. Beeping. Men shouting instructions to each other. The sound of things being lifted and rolled away. Movers. Real ones. Not a threat. "This is elder fraud," Judith screamed somewhere behind him. I could hear her sharp and clear, like she was used to rooms listening. She manipulated paperwork. She's confused. She's unstable. I stayed quiet, not because I was empty this time, because there was nothing left to add. A new voice came on the line. Calm, official. "Mrs. Prescott," he said, pronouncing it carefully. "This is Officer Miller. We've reviewed the documents. The sale is valid. The property was legally transferred this morning." Hearing my name like that did something to me. Made it solid. Finished. Daniel came back on the line. His breathing was uneven now. "Mom," he said. Just that. Then softer. "You ruined me." I closed my eyes. The kitchen smelled faintly like dish soap. My coffee had gone cold. I said one thing. I'd practiced it without realizing I had. "You sold me first," I said. I just followed through. He didn't answer. I heard Judith again, yelling at someone else now. Blame looking for a place to land. I hung up before he could find another word. Later, Harold called to say the funds were moving. Everything clean. Everything done. I thanked him and set the phone down. I sat there longer than I meant to, listening to the quiet, not relief, not triumph, just quiet. At this point, who do you feel bad for? Anyone. I live in a smaller place now. 1 bedroom, thin walls, quiet mornings, the kind where you can hear your own breathing and nothing rushes you out the door. I didn't choose it for healing. I chose it because it was mine. The check cleared a week after everything went through. I stared at the number longer than I should have. It felt heavier than the house ever did. I donated some of it, not to feel noble, just to move part of it out of my hands. I kept the rest because starting over at 68 costs more than people like to admit. Daniel left messages. At first they were angry, then confused, then soft in a way that made my chest tighten. I don't answer. Not because I don't care. Because I care too much to step back into the same shape we always fall into. Some days I miss him, the old him, or maybe the version I believed in. Other days I don't miss him at all. Both things can be true. I've learned that. The bruise faded fast. Skin always does. The memory didn't. It shows up in small ways. A raised voice in a grocery store. A hand moving too quickly. I don't freeze anymore. That's new. I replay that decision more than I admit. Selling the house. Not warning him. Cutting clean instead of talking it to death. I still don't know if it was right. I just know it was the first choice I made that didn't shrink me. I'm not proud. Pride feels loud. I'm not ashamed either. Shame kept me quiet for years. This feels different. Solid. uneven. Mine. If there's anything I've learned, it's this: love doesn't mean absorbing damage. Being someone's mother doesn't mean being their landing pad forever. At some point, silence stops being patience and starts being permission. If this story hit something familiar you don't scroll past it. Sit with it. Talk about it. Say the quiet part out loud. Someone else listening might need to hear that they're allowed to take up space too.